All right. So YouTube, we're going to talk about something extremely controversial. So I'm just going to tell you, uh, right now that you might not want to hear what I have to say. But the question before us is really, what do I think of censorship in general? And the exchange of knowledge and all that. I've been working on the knowledge exchange grid, which led to you know freedom of communication, and we made fun of how they tried to block the RSA encryption algorithm and how that got put on a T-shirt, which turned into a munition, and that then turned into like a full breakdown of what our civil liberties actually are, and what's a good society look like, all the way from Jordan Peterson being against being forced to use the pronouns that a person tells them to use, which I think is a violation of freedom of speech, even though I'm pretty much anti Jordan Peterson and everything else, all the way to this wonderful show Logan, which is one of the most heartfelt, wonderful things you'll ever see. Has got crazy ass violence in it. Uh, is that okay? Right? To being forced to get emails from my mother promoting the severed limbs of, just like the old days, for shoplifters in black shoplifters in Walmart. At what point do we draw the line, and how do we deal with the problem of communicating things that cause, in some sense, harm? And what actually is hate speech? Should it be uh, you know legislated? And I'm going to start by saying something that's extremely controversial. That's going to probably cause all kinds of people to come after me. I do not believe in hate speech. I don't think it exists. And this is an extremely controversial opinion. Um, I think that you can say things that will cause people harm. I also don't believe in slander and libel and all those other things that are legally defined as protections under the law. And it's a very controversial opinion, but if I'm ever the subject matter, if I'm ever, subjected to it, I'm sure maybe I'd feel differently. And that's a very, very hard thing. Do I think that we should be running around saying these things? No, hell no. But I think that the solution is not to try to legislate what hate speech is. It's also not to try to legislate what we can and can't say and what we can and can't see. I think the energy is in the wrong place, and that's what I'm going to say. Okay, so while I don't want anybody to misunderstand, I'm sure some will, and they'll take it to mean that I am, pro hate speech. That's not what I'm saying. I'm anti hate speech legislation. I'm anti legislating anything that is being communicated at all. And I think that we need to allow people to say some of the most heinous things. And it makes me very scared to even say that, because I'm not trying to encourage it. I mean, do you want to, if you're threatening violence against somebody, that should be taken extremely seriously. And yes, you should send the police to their door, and you should do all of those things. But should you make it illegal to say those things? I don't think so. Because as soon as you do make it illegal, now you have to find out what else is illegal and what's not. So one person's hate speech becomes somebody else's person's, uh, you know, activism. Uh, there's a good line to draw. Yeah. You're making money on it. I don't agree. I mean, money is not the only motivator, right? Um, I mean, do I think it should be legal for you to say that taking this drug is going to make you, safe? Do I think it's legal for people to say that you can use the silicone that you buy over the counter to inject your ass and have a really great, ass lift? It's not illegal to say those things. Is it dangerous? Hell yeah. Do I think it's illegal to use the N-word? Should it be illegal to use the N-word? No, I don't. Am I using the N-word? No. Should I do it? Does Twitter have the right to ban people for using the N-word? Hell yes. Please don't use it. And I have banned people all the time. I'm not saying that people don't have the right. Companies and people don't have the right to decide what gets said in their forums, including mine. Somebody says something I don't agree with, and I'm like, hey, this isn't a democracy. This isn't an open public forum for here. This is my Twitch channel. I'm gonna shut you down. I'm gonna delete your comment if I don't like it. And you go, well, that's not an open forum. Okay, fine. Go someplace else. You have the freedom to do that, right? But as soon as you don't have the freedom to go anywhere else, do I believe that Nazis have the right to throw swastikas all around? Yeah. It makes me sick to say that, especially given all the total violence that's happened in the name of that. But I just don't think we can go down that path. We cannot go down the path where we are saying what's illegal and what's not. It just leads to a slippery slope. And it makes me sick that people would even say those things. And I think we need to focus our attention on, and I'm going to say it again, on helping people keep that out of their lives. Even though somebody else has the legal right to say horrible, horrible things, we should spend all of that time and energy and lobbying money and politics and everything. We should spend all of that on giving people the tools to protect themselves from what they would deem as hate speech. Rather than spending all this time and money and energy defining what hate speech is, let's take all of that time and money and energy and let's build tools. It's an engineering solution, I know, but let's build tools and methods and policies, frankly, that allow people to protect themselves from what they feel is wrong and bad and evil. And that's going to vary really dramatically depending on who you're talking to. I mean, I please don't use the word because I don't want to be banned from Twitter, but let's just take the N-word, for example, right? We've talked about it quite a bit on this, and I don't believe in using it. I don't think so. And I've talked to people from many different communities who even from the Black community who are like, no, we're against using it because then people use it and they use it incorrectly and then they get in trouble and then other people think it's okay to use it. But, you know, when I'm watching Mr. Robot and, you know, there's a guy on Mr. Robot using it all the time, is it wrong? It depends on the context. It depends on the context. It depends on who's using it. And just this blanket thing, using the N-word should be illegal. That becomes, as I said, a very, very slippery slope. And I don't think we should ever do that. I don't think any speech whatsoever should be limited legally. Do I think that we should be able to limit what speech we're exposed to? Hell yeah. And I think we should spend the energy on that. We should spend the energy on creating tools like Keg, like, you know, Twitch, like YouTube, and places where we can go and we can set up what criteria we want to see. You know, Google has put forward its idea of what you should and should not be able to see in terms of, like, you know, explicit search conditions and stuff like that. And I can opt into using Google for that, right? I can opt into, an organization. There are organizations that would, like, remove hate speech from movies or violence from movies. They used to, when I was a Mormon, they got in trouble. Actually, they got sued. There was a company that used to actually take rated R because it's illegal. It's you go to hell if you watch a rated R movie in the Mormon Church, which I was Mormon for 42 years. And there was an entire company that would take popular movies and they would usually get a hold of the version for the airplane, right? And they would remove it all out of there. And they would take all of that out of there, and then they would give it, and they would you could rent them. And the creators of the movies got mad, and they sued them, and they won. They said you didn't have the right to do that, which I think is sad because I wish that more creatives who produce that kind of stuff would at least give people. This is the whole thing about copyright that I really don't like. Should you be able to make money on copyrighted material? Yeah, but I don't really believe in copyright, period. I mean, I know it's the law and everything, but, you know, and people spend billions of dollars on producing, you know, movies and content. And I just don't know. It's a very complicated thing, but coming in and telling someone else how to consume your content, I feel like that's just being a dick. Because, I mean, if somebody doesn't want to see the gratuitous violence in it and it's going to violate your creative, whatever, then just get over yourself and let other people control how they experience what you're creating. But the person, the creative authority, they're like, no, I have the right to say you can't watch it that way. It's supposed to be disturbing. Schindler's List is supposed to disturb the fuck out of you on purpose with a specific reason. And if it doesn't, we're just having a little rant here. If it doesn't do that, then it's not what I created, and you've made it into something else, and I don't want you to see it at all that way. I don't think Spielberg would have ever talked like that, honestly. I think Spielberg would have let you partake in censor. I mean, because you can look at the thing, and if you know something's coming up, you could, like, pause the thing and fast forward. I've done that before, right? So you can self-edit while you're participating in something like that. You can walk out of the theater, whatever. I mean, I think that we should focus on that. Are not responsible for defamation posted by a member who posts on their site. Yeah. So I mean, this is a huge legal battle going on right now, and I guess I'm just sharing my position on it. My position on it is somewhat libertarian, I guess. I'm not a libertarian, but I think it's. I think related to go, but not a topic. Well, we're just right now. We're doing a YouTube video right now, so you have to wait. So I don't think, and my whole family disagrees with me, and most people that I know disagree with me. And this is one of the areas that there's very few people that agree with me, but I don't think any speech whatsoever should be illegal. I think we should do everything in our power to make sure that every member of society has the power to control what they see and hear at any time. I think they should have the power. I think the individual should be given the tools to make those choices. And I think that the individual should be given the power to, they should be the ones set on the pedestal, that we should not trust our representative governments to make the right decisions for us on this particular issue. I think that each individual should be able to be empowered to make the decision about what's hate speech for them, and how does that hurt or affect them or their children, and that they should be the focus. And I think that everything else that we've done, should you be able to yell fire in a theater? No. But that's a private enterprise, right? That's a private enterprise, and it should be up to the theater to decide. And for that kind of thing, yeah, that probably could go to the government. It's like, look, if you want a license to operate this very, very dangerous business, a public theater, then in order for you to operate in the interests of public health, in order for you to operate a public theater or a firearm, for God's sake, then you have to abide or drive a car. You have to do these things in the interest of public safety. And that is not a violation of free speech. That is a private enterprise seeking to do something that's potentially dangerous and, choosing to selectively limit the amount of speech that could be used in the theater. But that's a very specific case. And it's, and every single person has the right to say, I don't want to go to the theater because that's a violation of my rights. I want to be able to scream fire in a theater. Because I'm a total dick, Obviously, they're not going to do that. But the point is, we're spinning our wheels, coming up with what should be and shouldn't be legalized, when in fact we should just say nothing is illegal except for a case by case basis. Like if you newspapers, libel and slander and that kind of thing, right? So even though there's all kinds of lies going on, but if, let's say that you got a license from the government to produce news, guess what? That's what it used to be. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember when the three television stations were given airtime on the condition from the government that they would report, the facts, basically C-SPAN. Now, they never did it. They always did it according to, they tried really hard. I mean, back in the 50s and stuff, I think they were trying harder than they were now. Into cable news is like all bets are off. There's nobody's, money's all powerful dollar. Nobody cares. CNN, and I quote, Trump is horrible for our society, but he's great for ratings. So, this whole idea of free speech in the media, including formerly the media that used to be partially run by the government. Look, I think that if you're going to get a license from the government to use public airways, that, yeah, the government has a little bit more rights to tell you what you can and can't say. But we're already seeing through social media that as long as somebody's privately owned, that you can't really legislate what can and can't be said. I mean, the whole porn thing on the internet is another thing. Do I think it should be wrong for porn to be on the internet? No. I think people should have the ability to control it. Like, for example, I had young boys, and I wanted to make sure that if they were going to have a porn experience, the way we controlled it at the time, and I'm not against porn. I actually think more young people need to see more quality porn. I know that's going to make me immediately blackballed by half the world, but I actually do. I think positive porn, as opposed to the kind of porn where, take it baby, and all this. I think if we had more openness about our sexuality at a younger age, I think all of society would be better. And that's a very controversial opinion. I don't care. Amsterdam happens to agree with that. But the point I'm trying to make is that, does that mean that we should outlaw, porn for everybody? No. And I mean, it's virtually impossible to stop anybody from getting access to porn if they want it today. I grew up in a time in the 70s when there was very strong control over it, right? You couldn't do that. Does that make it worse or better today? When the internet started coming out, so my family, back when I was Mormon, we chose to control access to the internet in a way that wasn't filtering anything. We had one computer that was connected to the internet at the time, and that was the only computer that my sons could use to do their homework and stuff. And we just, if they did run into that stuff, we didn't care. We just wanted to make sure that it was kind of in a controlled environment. The point I'm trying to make is you have the power, and we need to give people the power, the filtering tools, the software if they wish, the blacklisted sites, the community maintained list of domains that they shouldn't be going to. These are all wonderful techniques for people to provide for their communities. So, and whether it's I don't want someone to see pork being eaten versus I don't want someone to see titties, it should be within our power as individuals to decide whether we want to see that or not. And we need to create tools to help people do those things, but they shouldn't be legislated. As soon as you start putting that into legislation, it's super messy because, I mean, all of a sudden you got burqas and shit because that's, you can't legislate that kind of stuff. It's illegal to murder somebody. Is it illegal to say you want to murder someone? No. I mean, you should be very scared of it, and you should set the police to their front door when somebody says something like that. But should it be illegal to say it? No. I don't want people to say that. I don't think, it's a good thing to do. It doesn't mean that it should be illegal. That's all. So I kind of had to display to answer that question, long-winded way of answering that question. But not as much as separation of church and state. Yeah. Because the church wants soldiers historically. Yeah. Have you seen all the porn in the actual army videos? The cartoon porn? It's crazy. There's like cartoon soft porn big time in the this is not to be consumed by the public videos. You can go see them now on YouTube. It's kind of funny. It's illegal too. It's called a threat. Yeah. A threat of bodily harm is, I don't think it should be illegal. A lot of people do. It is illegal in the United States. I don't think it should be illegal. I think it should be terrifying, and I think it should raise attention, and I think people should go after it. And I think we should spend time identifying people who are communicating like that and get their names to the proper officials as fast as possible. I believe in all of that. Do I think it should be legal? No. So, another thing too, I just want to say on a final note here. Speaking the way I am about what I think should be legal to say does not mean I agree with some of the shit people say. And I feel like it's disingenuous and frankly downright hateful to suggest that. To suggest to me that promotion of being able to use the N word or the B word or any number of horrible things means that I automatically accept those things as being okay or promoting them is disingenuous and hateful. You're lumping me in with the people that are doing those things just for saying somebody can talk about those things. And that's not fair. That's not fair. I'm not saying that. Oh, you're just this hater or that hater. No, I'm not. Well, you said that people can say that. I said, yeah. Did I say they should say that? No, they shouldn't say that. And it just really bothers me. It really bothers me because people want to put people into that category just for agreeing with the people who very badly use and say those things. And I that's just, it's not only is it not logical, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. And I'm tired of it. Frankly, I'm tired of it. Oh, well, you're obviously like this and that and that and that because you just said that. Like, no, I'm not that. So, well, you said that people can say that. And I said, yeah, but I didn't say they should say that. I don't know how many times I have to say that. People in either ditch think that the person walking on the road is in the opposite ditch. Yeah, right. If you're not with them, you're against them, right? And that's the thing. If anything, I'm trying to promote dialogue, right? I mean, there's certain dialogues you cannot even have because they're becoming illegal to even say. And it's happening all over. It's not just one side or the other or another that's deciding this. It's like we can't even have. You know who I really agree with on this point. By the way, is you're going to hate me for saying so, but what's his name? Bennett, Dennett, and Richard Dawkins and those guys. Richard Dawkins and these guys, they got together and they were having a talk. They obviously they don't believe in God, right? They not only do not believe in God, they believe religion's bad for the world, and they have been put into a category of people using hate speech by certain religions. And they actually talk about their frustration, and they're having like kind of a dialogue, and they're talking about their frustration because they can't even engage in a dialogue with anybody because saying that God doesn't exist or that there's a religion or that religion is bad, just saying that means that you can't even have a conversation with them. And they're immediately branded as all of these things, and they can't even. It's so frustrating. I remember, I think it was Bennett was talking about it. It's so frustrating because they're already demonized, and they're not even seen as humans, so you can't even have a conversation with them. But it's a complicated thing because I tell you what, if I knew that somebody thought that slavery should be promoted, or that pedophilia is not really a thing, those are two very specific cases of things that people that I otherwise respect actually, at least one person actually believes. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, how do you resolve this? I'm not going to say who, you're going to have to do your own research. Do you throw the person away with their really, really horrible belief? In my case, there's no way I would ever want to go to get a beer with either of those people because I am so against what I know them to believe. I'm doing exactly what the religious zealots are doing to Bennett and Dawkins and stuff. And they are putting them in a category and saying, I don't even have to talk to you. And then they regret the fact that they're being dehumanized because they're anti-religious. Well, I just did the same thing, right? I just dehumanized the person for thinking that pedophilia is a thing that should be okay. I obviously don't. I think it's fucking crazy. Even though if you go back to the cabin boy days on the ships and the Marines and the British Navy, oh my God, the shit that went down back then is just absolutely terrible. But it was a part of the norm of the time, and God, it's very complicated. It's very dangerous territory here because I do not believe in any of that at all. Do I think that we should even be able to have a conversation about it? Yeah, we probably should. If you shut down conversations, you shut down the ability to help people change and grow. And the reason that I'm not pro hate speech, I'm pro dialogue. I am pro speech. I am pro let's figure this shit out. Let's figure out how to be together. Let's have, as best we can, a conversation so that we can decide how not to talk, or how, if it's going to offend somebody. And I also don't, a lot of the harassment laws are absolute bullshit because like, for example, the definition of harassment at Nike, and I quote, is you do or say something that makes somebody else uncomfortable. I'm not even kidding. They cited that to me. And just for the record, I did get brought up. It was a very long, drawn out, problematic thing. I wrote an email to a person on my team. You knew damn well that we were going to launch tomorrow, and you went ahead and did it anyway. And they took down our website that I was responsible for. I had my name all over it. And that angry email that I sent got submitted to HR, and I ended up sitting in front of a harassment board because I told them that was it. And all of a sudden they like drudged up all of these other things to try to justify their harassment, and we were all just laughing at it. And by the way, I was totally vindicated of it. I wrote a 20-page response to the thing, even though they let me go for like 3 days until they figured it out. And I wrote back, and the whole thing, the HR department, everybody just backed away from it because I think they were afraid of my legal action against them, because it turned out that was total bullshit. And they didn't say it was total bullshit, but they just said, well, we've decided to let this one go and we're going to move forward and try to heal and everything. And I was like, yeah, you better damn well do that, because you just made me feel like shit for calling me a harasser. And it turned out that the definition of harassment is yeah, right. And for a Mormon like me, that was to say you damn well we were going to launch, right? Um, for the most part, I was generally, I know I seem, and I am uptight. I'm not going to lie, but I mean, I don't know. To this day, I still wonder if there was like a kernel of truth in what was accused of against me. I was like, is there something in my personality at the time that I wasn't aware of? And was I? I mean, I was accused of very specific types of harassment, and and it just makes me sick to this day to think that anybody would have ever thought that about me. And I was like, maybe there is something in there that I need to go dig out and figure it out. And to this, but the thing that I take away the most from that is that, and it was a time when I didn't want anybody to know that I was ever, that I was ever even charged of harassment. And because I think it's important that I put that out there. That was a major part of my life. You harass the concepts of hyperlinks all the time. On Twitch, I say whatever I want, right? But so that was when I learned the definition of harassment according to Nike. And the definition was doing or saying anything that makes another person feel uncomfortable. And how about the IBM meetings where the guy who disagreed with me put his fucking fist through the wall of sheetrock because he didn't agree with some shit that was in our design? That happened. How about, I mean, I could cite so many times where, people were saying things that were complete. I could have found any definition of harassment I wanted to, because by that definition, anything's possible. I could have said, "Hey, how's it going?" And, somebody could have been offended because of that. We had a hostile workplace. What's the definition of a hostile workplace, right? And I'm not saying that we should not be aware of these things. I'm not saying that we shouldn't seek to promote a welcoming environment. And I do my best to try that. I mean, I've had some drama on the stream, and I'm happy to say that I feel like I've mended in some of my relationships, including with Prime and others. And I'm a hard guy to get along with sometimes. My wife will be the first to tell you that. But we need to do better. Obviously, we need to do better. But we also need to be more tolerant, but we also need to be less likely to be offended. And yeah, and we need to be, I think that we need to give more people the benefit of the doubt, as I've said, and we need to promote dialogue, even at the risk of doing it wrongly. And if we don't do that, we're going to be in trouble. And so that's where all of this is coming from. It's coming from because I think the attention should be on promoting dialogue and giving people tools to save themselves from, the very horrific things that might come across our daily information feed, such as, the very horrible, beheading of a journalist, which to this day still haunts me. I'm very messed up about that. It was just, I can't even think about it. But, I was forced to see that more or less because somebody sent it to me in my email, and it was my mom actually. And I was like, I don't want to see this. That was when I removed myself from the family mailing list. I don't want anything to do with what you're sending me. And I could censor myself. And it took that incident to make sure I had to know who to censor. And, my relationships have suffered from that because I'd rather just not say anything at all. I'd rather disengage. And are they going to send those things again? Probably not. Should I be more forgiving? Probably. Should I go forward and tell them this is the reason that we're not communicating anymore? No. I probably should do that. Do I have to do that? No. This is way back this happened years ago. And the reason I got a Facebook was because of the whole chopping the hands thing. And I was like, I refuse to be a party to this. I don't want to see any of this. Do they have the right to do it and talk about it? Hell yeah. Absolutely do. And do I have the right to disengage myself? Absolutely. And I think that we should give people that. I think we should give people that power. And that's why, don't get mad, get busy. That's why I'm spending so much time on KEG and things like it, because I want to promote a positive exchange and dialogue in a way that can be controlled by the community. And so recently I just came up with this thing here. The idea of a user keg. A user keg actually identifies the user and allows them to provide their own follow list and their avoid list. Does that mean people are going to make their own echo chambers? Yes, they have the right to do that. People have the right to create their own echo chambers. People get mad at that all the time, and Neil deGrasse Tyson calls it not search engines, but what is it? Confirmation bias engines, right? Because they force you to see what they think you want to see. And I think we need to give the control back to the person. It's all about individual sovereignty, individual control. And that is not what we have today. It's not what we have today. And there's no motivation to promote individual sovereignty and power and all of that, and the ability to self-censor and all these, because there's no money in it. There's no money in it. If all of a sudden you give the power for people to say, I don't want to see any of these ads or this and that, the crazy thing is that there's an enormous amount of demand for this. All of the ad blockers are absolute drop-dead proof that people want the ability to control what they see. Some places they turn the ads off. They're like, some places they turn them on. They're like, I don't care. I want to see them here. Because people want the ability. The individuals want this. They just don't know how to do it. And nobody's going to make it for them because there's no money in it. And there's no nonprofit that's going to make it. Because why? Because the nonprofits are getting money from the government. And the government's being lobbied by corporations with interests in specific things. And convincing the entire American people that pizza is a fruit. Because it is, legally. Pizza is a fruit according to the FDA. Now, I would rather participate in a community where the people communicating don't think that. They don't think pizza's a fruit. No, I would rather self-censor and say, I don't want to communicate. I don't want my internet to include any participants who think pizza is a fruit. But instead, I want to opt in, or the world is flat, or whatever. By the way, there's a Twitch streamer who sincerely thinks the world is flat. He has an amazing stream, and I actually was on the stream once. I was just fascinated, and I was watching, and I said, what did I say? Just to check the temperature, I said, yeah, like all anyone has to do is just get in an airplane and fly in a straight line, right? And he went, yeah. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah. I didn't say anything else. I just let him keep talking. He actually thought that if you got in an airplane and flew in a straight line, that it would confirm that the earth is flat. And I didn't say anything else. I was like, I'm done here. I'm just eating my popcorn, watching this shit. And should you have the right to watch that? Probably. Yeah. People who think pizza's a fruit, people who think the earth is flat. Do I want to eliminate them from my life? Yes. Do I want to cancel them? I don't know if that's the word I would use. I just don't want to hear what they have to say. How is that canceling? Maybe they're really fun people. Maybe they would be really great to play, ice hockey with. Maybe I would love to go. Maybe they both like Dota 2. Hey, let's go play Dota 2 together. Let's not talk about pizza being a fruit. Let's not talk about, you know what? And let me give you an example of this. One of my best friends, I've said this before, is a big time crypto person. He's not anymore, by the way. He was, but he was a huge Bitcoin person. A great friend, one of my best friends of all time, actually. And pushing crypto on me all the time. I'm like, no, dude, we just agree to disagree on this. I mean, viscerally, as if the thing that you're promoting, I think, is bad for the universe. And then beer is a cereal. and speaking of beer, he would always, pay the beer tab because he was so rich because, Bitcoin. I wonder if he's still rich. I don't know. But, and he was such a generous guy. He would be buying me books for Christmas. He would carry me up to the door and say, I'm so sorry. I got your husband drunk. And he apologized to my wife, Doris, and he'd bring me home. I mean, I have such positive memories of this guy. But if I had experienced the guy on Twitch based just on what he thought about crypto, there's no way I would have ever had a beer with him. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea here. And how many of you have like a wildly racist relative that you love dearly? Right? Do you love that they're a racist? No. Are you going to cancel them and never be around them? No. I mean, we all have horrible things. If your relative wants to kill children, you might want to talk to somebody about that. Or if they're mutilating cats, another bad sign, right? If your relative that you love dearly is mutilating cats, it's probably time to get some help. Are you going to cancel them and throw them out? Are you going to shoot them in the head and bury them in the backyard? No, unless you're Rick and Morty. But it's like it's but I'm just trying to make a point here. I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit. I know this is a heavy topic. I don't want people to come away with the wrong idea. I believe in dialogue, and I believe in personal individual sovereignty, and I believe that we should promote tools for the individual. And unfortunately, that's directly against everything that modern society wants. Not society so much as modern capitalist society, modern profit-driven society. There's just no motivation to do it. There's no motivation to give individuals control. And, the free and open source software movement is one of the things that's doing this. I mean, just recently, this is actually one of the reasons it's on my mind here. I went ahead and added the Cypherpunk Manifesto to my specification for KEG, because I was recently reading it, and it's a real good reminder about this. So let me just read it really quick. So Eric Hughes, who wrote Cypherpunk's Manifesto back in the 90s, writes, Cypherpunks write code. We know that someone has to write software to defend privacy, and since we can't get privacy unless we all do, we're going to write it. We publish our code so that our fellow cypherpunks may practice and play with it. Our code is free for all to use worldwide. We don't care much if you don't approve of the software we write. We know that software can't be destroyed and that a widely dispersed system can't be shut down. And I fundamentally agree with this idea. If you want to categorize it as libertarian or progressive or whatever you want to do, that's up to you. I don't. The idea of creating a way to exchange knowledge and controlling privacy is about self-sovereignty. It's about the ability to say, I don't want to share this. Now, I choose to share everything, obviously, but that's my choice. And whether it be privacy or it be what you are exposed to, which is not something that is frequently discussed in the cypherpunk forums and the privacy forums, because, limiting the same people who talk about freedom for privacy tend to be people who are anti-censorship. But I think you should be able to censor your own input. I think you should be able to say, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to see this ad. Here's my story. I don't want to be watching Mary Poppins. This is a true story. Back when I was Mormon, I had my young children, very young, all of them under 12, 4 boys. It was a Sunday, just like tonight. And we were enjoying this wonderful night. And we were watching Mary Poppins, one of the most amazing, wonderful things you'll ever see. I mean, it's not very diverse by today's terms, but there is a brilliant scene in there, and I really encourage you to go watch it if you ever get a chance. I'm going to choke up when I talk about it because it is such a powerful, powerful scene. But Julie Andrews is singing Tuppence a Bag, and she's singing about how to, look out for those in need around us. And it's one of the most beautiful songs ever sung. It's one of the most beautiful moments in all of Disney history, let alone performance. I mean, and Julie Andrews could really deliver it because she was the real deal. I mean, let's be honest. She came from a different generation, but she was the real deal. She really meant it. She's a fantastic human being. Dick Van Dyke too. And I mean, they're second one, they got flaws, but for the most part, they're very kind people. And so anyway, here's the story. So this absolutely heartwarming, wonderful spiritual moment happens. And of course it was commercial television, right? So just as she ends her final note, and my wife and I are in tears, and my kids are just, their jaws are on the ground because they've just had this most amazing learning moment, spiritual moment, maybe even helped encourage them to want to be better people and to help people more. Do you know what the first image was that I saw right after that? This was, of course, on Fox. I am not kidding. They cut immediately to this loud 1980s music, or 80s, 90s music, and this French cut ass bikini filling the entire fucking television screen. And it was this ad, it was this promotional ad for this new hot and sexy Florida-based, Miami Vice spinoff for the 90s, for that had even no thing. And it was like this, I mean, seriously, it was these ass cheeks wiggling like this. So it cut from tuppence a bag, this like nice fade out, right? And there's a fucking ass in my face screaming, no, go see that. It was like trying to advertise this thing. And it was so fucking jarring. I wanted to throw the TV out the door. I was so pissed off. I was so fucking pissed off because we had this amazing moment and they totally destroyed it. They totally destroyed it. Why? One of the best things you can say about modern streaming is that you control the interruptions for the most part. Hopefully that will never go away. Because I mean, I'm sure that if I had written a strongly worded letter or email to the Fox or whoever it was who put it on, that they would have just said, oh, I'm sorry, we have no control over the ads that get banned. I mean, you really do, actually. You really do. You could have made sure that the rated R ad doesn't pull up right after Julie Andrews during, 7 p.m. prime time. Is that censorship? So, I mean, based on all the arguments I've been making, that should be their prerogative to show me whatever the fuck they want, right? Because I'm not buying anything from them. They should be able to show me whatever they want, right? Just as the PG-13 movie. Look, they should have done a lot of things, but because it's a private, I'm still, even though that was a horrible moment, I still think that they have the right to do that. Now, it's a tough one, though, because at the time, those television channels are using a scarce resource. I really love that the streaming has come about because it's pretty much shut down all of that, right? And we have so many options now. We don't even have a television. I haven't had a television in 10 years. God, we haven't had a television since, I want to say, 2011. 2011 is the last time I had a television. Yeah, and a lot of people have never owned a television. I mean, I have a screen, a monitor and stuff, right? And I think that's a wonderful thing. Whether you want to watch porn on your own time or you want to watch Mary Poppins with your family without having to see an ass in your face, that we live in that time. And we demonize modern society all the time. But one of the things we do have now is choice. And we also have the technology to control that choice. And we have the ability to give individuals, if you want to watch Mr. Robot and you're okay with, God, what's his name? What's his face using the N-word all the time because he's talking like a street gangster because that's what he is. Brilliant actor, by the way. Then that's fine. If listening to that makes you uncomfortable, don't watch it. Now, unfortunately, you have to kind of get a sense of a thing before you decide how much of it you want to partake in. Like once you've seen one boob, you've already been tainted. You've already seen the boob. Oh no, right? Or you've already seen, the beginning of a beheading, for example. I mean, it doesn't take much to scar you for life to see that stuff. Or an ass after Mary Poppins. I wish we had the ability to sample the stuff that we are censoring before we get thrown in our face. But you haven't seen all the boobs. Exactly. It's like 2 seconds of boobs. It's like subliminal boobs or whatever, right? So, and it depends on the nature of the boobs, right? I've seen so many boobs now, it's not even funny because my wife's an artist and there's boobs everywhere. I mean, I was a cruise director and I took tours of the Hermitage Museum. It's a part of it, right? But you can't even show art in certain areas on YouTube and stuff. I mean, YouTube has to have censorship. Unfortunately, it really does. It's really sad that it has to have that, but it has to. I mean, society still requires it legally. But I think those laws should be changed, and I think that the organizations should be giving more power to the individuals to make choices. But they won't. They won't. There's no money in it. There's no money in creating. I mean, they could. I mean, YouTube could create the most amazing tool to give us direct access. Google could too. They could give us our own control over a highly complex search engine optimization that we could specify. I mean, they keep telling us that we're going to get this control eventually by saying, I'm not interested, I'm not interested. But what we really need is for them to put all that money, time, and energy in manipulating our psyche and take it and put it into developing a tool that lets me control what I'm going to see. I only want to see boobs. Or I only want to see, Kubernetes stuff. And I want to be able to change that. I want to be able to watch, a tank documentary and not have it think I'm like a military vet who also votes for Trump. You know, I want control. We all do, and we're never going to get it because there's no money in it. And so we have to turn to the free and open source movement to try to give us these things. But that's the reason. That's the reason that I think that there should be less legal entanglement on those things. People love to throw me into the group that's trying to promote, trickle down economics and corporate America and all that stuff when I say things that are kind of libertarian like this. But it has nothing to do with it, right? I'm hoping that for a better world that these tools continue to evolve and that we can make choices that are gonna, with our money, that are going to influence those people, and to do the right thing. And that's all I have to say about that on YouTube. All right, so that's the end of this YouTube video. Hopefully I won't get too much flame war over this. I doubt many are going to make it all the way to the end of the video. They're going to stop midway through like usual. But we'll see. If you made it this far, please put a thumbs up in the comments. If you have a thumbs up in the comments or you did something like that, do something secret to let me know you made it to the end. Because most people don't.